We would like to introduce our closed weld head series, which welds from small diameter thin wall tube to larger diameter thin wall and thicker wall tube and pipe. I will start with our smallest weld head, which does from 1/4 to 1 inch tubing. Then our next size weld head welds from 1/4 inch to 1.5 inch, followed by our next weld head, which welds from 3/4 inch to 3 inch. The larger head now welds from 1.5 inch to 4 inch tubing, and our largest weld head welds from 2.5 inch to 6 inch pipe. The next step in using the weld head is placing the tube clamp inserts in the weld head, one set on each side. Then you place the pre-cut tungsten in the rotor so that you can weld. You open up the weld head on both sides, the clamp housings that is, and then rotate the rotor using either the controls on the handle or the weld head or the remote pendant to the position that will accept the tungsten. The tungsten is a pre-cut length for the size of tubing to be welded. You loosen the set screw and insert the tungsten to the back of the rotor, and resecure the tungsten with the set screw. To check that the tungsten is secure, you can pick up the weld head and see that it will not fall out. You can then shut the clamp housing, turn it around, and see that the tungsten will not fall out and that you will have a gap between the tubing and the tube clamp inserts on the bottom where your piece is going to go in prior to welding. I will now start to place some tubing inside the weld head, and we will make a weld. It's going to return to the home position. In the meantime, the rotor rotates back to the home position so we can ready to place the tubing inside for welding. We have prepared our tubes for welding by cutting them and making them sure that they have a square-faced ends, that they fit together without a gap for the welding. We need to make sure that they are both clean tubes on the inside and outside prior to welding. Then you butt them up on their ends so it looks like this without any gap, and then you can weld them together. We are starting the welding, so I will first take the first tubing and place it in the weld head, splitting the tungsten tip halfway. Then I will close the clamp housing and check again to make sure that the workpiece is still splitting the tungsten halfway. Then on the other side, I will take the second piece of tubing and place it inside the weld head, making sure that it matches up with the first piece and that there is not a gap between them. I can check from the top window to see if there is any gaps. If there is none, then we are ready to weld. After setting up the internal purge of the sample, we are setting up the incoming purge on one side of the OD and the exit on the other side OD to purge on the inside of the tube. We are using a magnehelic to measure the internal pressure of the argon gas flowing through. For our 1.5 inch sample, the water column pressure should be between 0.5 and 0.7, or actually 0.6 water column pressure before welding. We will start the welding pressure by pressing the start sequence button and then allowing the weld head to go through a pre-purge cycle. This will allow the argon to fill up the weld head, removing all oxygen from the weld head itself. In the weld, after it is finished, we will open up one side of the clamp housings to see how the weld looks. Then we will open up the other side and remove the sample. Please note how clean the sample is right after the weld has been completed. It is a very good weld sample. We are looking at the ID of the weld to show that the ID is clean and that the weld has been fully penetrated and has a smooth ID surface.